G'day, I'm Patrick. Welcome to the workshop. Today I'll show you how to make a simple jig that will allow you to hold square stock like this that you might use to make chair legs or table legs in the horizontal position so that you can use a plane or a spokeshave to taper this or round it or add some texture without having to put it in and out of the vise every time you want to turn it around. I'm going to be making these jigs out of 18mm chipboard because it was in the workshop and it suits what I'm trying to do. If you were going to make yourself one of these to be a more permanent fixture in your workshop, choose something nicer, potentially more durable. Even thicker will help you out. The basic principle of what I'm doing here is we're going to create a channel in the top and a channel in the bottom. The channel in the top will be essentially V-groove, like that. Not all the way to the bottom, but that profile that will continue over the whole length of the timber. That will allow us to sit our leg or our square stock on the angle, on 45 degrees, and have it stay in position without it rocking back and forth. And on the underside, we're going to create a little square groove like this, which will allow us to rest our square stock in there and again, have it not move around. Both of these troughs will have a stop at one end, which will stop the piece sliding in and out. You could create a double stop system if you need to. We're going to cut the V-groove first, and I'm going to set the panel saw blade to 45 degrees. You can do this on a table saw. If you don't have a panel saw or a table saw, in theory, you could use a V-groove router bit. It would probably be a little bit slower, but it would still work. Anything that's going to create that 45 degree cut into the valley. So I'm going to take the blade to 45, do the cut from one side, do the cut from the other side, and just make sure I get my height right so that it meets up perfectly. The easiest way to do this is just to make it right in the center so that you don't have to adjust your fence distance each time. But in some ways it would be better if it was off to one side to separate it from that other groove I'm cutting. But there's enough space on here to do, just have this right in the center. I need to make sure my blade is not going to cut through the timber. I need it to remain intact. In a perfect world, I'd be doing this out of 25mm chipboard or something else, but I don't want to buy a bunch of material for these jigs. They'll probably only be used for this one class. So 18mm chipboard it is. The way I'm going to make sure my fence location is in the right spot is I've drawn a little center line on the base of this piece. I'm going to hold it against the fence, and I want the apex of the highest tooth to just touch that center line. That will mean that when I cut from one side and then the other side, the cuts will be in the right position. Okay, so that worked pretty well. The height was right, but I needed to adjust the fence slightly. There's a really small ridge in there that you can barely see, but it means that this is rocking. So if I just bring the fence slightly closer to the blade, it means that those high points will meet. And it's possible that I'll just need to toss this one, but I should be able to just remove that center material. With that little adjustment, this now sits in here perfectly. That little divot that you can see underneath means that the tip is always going to have clearance and it's not going to rock back and forth. That's that side done. Now we need to do the channel on the other side. The leg stock I'm creating this jig for is 30 by 30. So I just need to create a little flat channel with enough space for this to sit in there comfortably. This morticing bit is about 32. Which is just perfect. I actually don't want it to be 30. Even if it was 35, it would still be fine. You're just giving it a little seat to sit in so it doesn't wobble back and forth. It probably only needs to be about 3mm deep. So setting up a channel on the router to run this through. If you don't have one of these giant bits, you can do it in a few passes with a smaller bit. That'd be fine. Again, like if this is for your own workshop, make it out of a piece of hardwood or some nice thick ply. Don't use 18mm chipboard. You can give yourself some more space and make it really firm. But this is going to be the simplest way to do it. If you don't have a router table, you could do it with a handheld router. You could also just do lots and lots of cuts on a table saw to create a little flat channel. The last thing we need to do is add a tail piece. This serves two functions really. It stops our actual leg stock from sliding back and forth by giving it a positive stop to lock against, but it also gives us a way to lock this jig to the bench by just locking it straight into the vise. You can attach this however you want. Screws, glue, pins, nail gun. Just make sure the height of the little stop is deep enough to reach into your vise and not so high that it's going to get in the way of a Spokeshave or a plane. So in my case, I can afford to be about 15 millimeters off the base plate, and that gets me enough distance to go into the vise as well. To fix this on, I'm going to use glue pins and screws. It's overkill, but screws in chipboard aren't that strong. What the pins do is just help keep everything in place so I can screw it in, and then the glue and everything will work together to hold it pretty tight. The force that you're applying to this jig is primarily towards this backstop, which means you're not really pulling the backstop away from the jig. So in theory, you could probably get away with just pins. I find trying to screw an object that has glue on it really tricky because the glue's slippery, but pinning is a lot easier because it's kind of instant, and then you can back that up with screws. Just make sure that the pins are out of the way of the screws. Make sure you wipe off any glue on the inside. It's going to mean that your leg component doesn't sit nice and tight into that corner. So get that out of there. You're going to be pulling a tool towards these edges over and over again. That includes your hands. So I would strongly urge you to round off all of these corners, because otherwise you're going to end up cutting yourself up. So that could be as simple as just sanding it off, which is what I might make my students do because it'll kill some time. Otherwise, just run the trimmer router over it. The way you use this is incredibly simple. You just lock that base into your vise, and then you can use your Spokeshave towards you, and the piece should stay in place. If you're finding it's jumping around, you could just put some sort of little stop lock on the other end, but it keeps it held in like that. Now, when you want to work on the corner, to do an octagon or something similar, you flip it over to the other side, put it in that V-groove side, and you can really easily create those corner chamfers on your legs as well. Quick tip about cutting tapers on stuff like this with a Spokeshave or a hand plane. Don't just run the whole length and expect to get a taper. You won't, you'll just sink that line further and further down. What you need to do is more cuts on the end where you want the taper to be deeper and less cuts on the shallow end. I'll show you what I mean. I want this piece to taper down to this line with 0 taper up here and about 5 or 6 mil of taper down here. So I don't just run this corner in one long pass. I do 1 or 2 passes down here, and then I go up a little bit further and do 1 or 2 passes from there, move it up a little bit further, and so on. And once you have cut this bit more passes than the top bit, you will naturally get a taper. Once the taper is in place, then you can do some of those long passes and you'll maintain a really nice even taper the whole way along. You can use this same technique not for cutting the arris, but for cutting the face. Do 1 pass that's 5 centimeters, 1 pass from 10 centimeters, 1 pass from 15 centimeters, and each time you do that, you're slowly building your taper into your piece. A simple way that I've figured out that you can hold the end down to stop it from lifting up in the jig is put a little cup hook in here. You can easily turn the cup hook by hand, so you have it sitting perpendicular to the piece, slide it in, and then turn that hook so it's hooking over your piece of work, which means it won't lift. Now let's give it a shot. Much, much nicer. That's super simple. I mean, you could do that with anything. You could do it with a piece of string, some other kind of bolt. A cup hook works because it's flat in one direction and then it has a hook in the other direction, which means it hooks onto the timber really well. So that's the way I make a spindle jig. It kind of serves the purpose of like a chairmaker's shave horse, but budget, super budget, and just fits in your vise on your workbench without taking up a bunch of space. But honestly, it kind of works the same way. You can turn this thing really easily. It more or less locks in place. The cup hook trick is, I'm pretty proud of that. And yeah, look, it'll cost you nothing. So thanks a lot for watching. Go ahead and make yourself one. It won't take you any time. You can easily reshape chair legs into octagons or rounds. It's a very soothing process using a Spokeshave like that. I hope you got something out of this. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, it helps us out, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.